Good evening. Welcome to Grant Talks Funny Bits. Hopefully you can hear me okay. Each week we always have some kind of technical issue, but that is the joys of going live. So I'll just wait for a couple of people to jump on and then we shall start. Now, don't forget, each week you can ask questions live whilst the broadcast is going on. If you're watching this on the catch up on the comment section in YouTube, then feel free to again ask questions and say stuff there. Natasha Stanley is here. Fantastic. Sound is James Goodwin. There we go. Jellybean Photo Booth is the first comment, and Richard Cole is here as well. Fantastic. I think the sound is good. yeah. There we go. Silly tagging thing. No worries, Natasha. So tonight's guest is a fantastic stage hypnotist and hypnotist from the United States of America, which means, Richard, they have the good internet, unlike that Canadian internet that you guys have. Apparently, it's a thing to do with solar flares. If you are watching this on the catch-up, please let me know in the comment section where you are watching from and what your internet is like. So hopefully, though, there we go. Adam is here as well. We have a full house. There we go. Natasha Stanley says, supposed to say good. Brilliant. Natasha Stanley is an absolutely amazing advocate for hypnosis. She's a hypno angel, bless her. And Adam Dealer, you're a hypno angel too, bless you. So there we go. Tonight's guest is Marc Marshall. He's a phenomenal hypnotist. He has got some great stories to share and tell you all as well. So please make some noise, bang your keyboard and make him feel very welcome. He should appear. Which side's it going to be on? He is there. Oh, it's right that there. Side. There we go. Fantastic. Brilliant. How are you, Mark? Good evening. I'm okay, just about. Can you hear me okay?
Good evening, Grant. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Fantastic. But so first of all, whereabouts in the United States of America are you at the moment?
I am in New Jersey right now, which is about 40 minutes outside of New York City.
Fantastic.
So one of the suburbs of the city.
Nice. How are things COVID-wise where you are at the moment?
We are pretty much open right now. There's a lot of rumblings going on about different strains that are coming back in, but for the most part, on the show and performance side of the world, we're back. It's been a great. We just got done with prom and grad season. April to June in the States is proms and grads. It was a banner year, a lot of travel, a lot of shows, and the demand for shows, and I'm really pleased to be able to be back in. Not that I was still doing some shows during COVID, but right now it's back full open, no restrictions. It's whatever the clients are comfortable with.
Brilliant. I mean, it's I've done a couple of shows with the restrictions, and I just found it was so much more. It took away from a lot of the energy of the actual show, and the audience, rather than it being a 10, would be like a 6. And I thought it was more of a politeness rather than it was a make do and mend rather than a full on show sort of thing. So yeah. So yeah, Richard Cole says, internet is so much better in the US. Exactly.
He's just
a great guy. So tell us about what were you doing before COVID happened. I mean, it hit the world, it kind of hit us all pretty much at the same time, and it was a little bit crazy. Tell us about the last show you did before it went into lockdown.
I guess the last show I did was probably in January, and then we went into lockdown. But I had a ridiculous number of shows. 20 some odd shows were canceled from schools because schools were closed and locked down. I wound up doing 4 shows in last June, not this June that just passed, but June of 2020. And they were on, they were outside events. They were on football fields, and I had, and they were wearing masks, and it's 30, 38, 39 degrees Celsius out on the field with the sun beating down, and my equipment's shutting down because it's overheating. So it's just like there was no shade. It was just, but did the shows, carried them off. They appreciated them. I loved having, anytime I can entertain, it's part of where I am. And I was grateful to have the four, because so many guys, shows are only 1/3 of my business.
Yeah.
1/3 is clinical, 1/3 is corporate work that I do. And it's not just corporate entertainment, but it's corporate motivation, corporate speaking. And I was fortunate that one of my major corporate clients, realized the importance of having supporting their team members. And so they hired me on to work with their team from all over the US, and I was doing Zoom sessions, and so I was grateful to have that to help carry me through the tight period.
It was one of the things that I personally learned, the positives that I took from the COVID pandemic, is I was always I kind of swore I would never go back to the therapy side of things, and I was just a just a performer. And I took a sense of pride in going, I am just a stage hypnotist. That is all I do. And then COVID happened, and then it's kind of like, well, that was foolish, Grant. So there was a big takeaway and a big lesson for me there. And I think it's an important lesson to everybody in any type of business that, you have to have multiple income streams, maybe within the same parameters, but you never know when the next meteor strike or the next global pandemic could be. What would you say?
I think that's really important. And the other part that I learned a long time ago is that very often when I'm on stage, we as stage hypnotists are the first time that people have an opportunity to experience hypnosis.
Yeah.
And they immediately are going to come up to me afterwards, and they're going to ask me, can you help me with this? Can you help me stop smoking or flying? And I said, yeah, I've got a product right here for you. You can do that. Or you want an even better session, you can book me, and I can do it. At the time it was on Skype, or I'll be here, and I've got a trailer, I'll do it in the trailer if I'm on venue location, if I'm doing a fair or something. But or if they're local, within a 2 hours drive, come on and visit my office. So that becomes a big part. The other part is from the corporate side as well, to have the experience just allows me to flow and go with whatever is presented, and it all feeds one another.
Yeah. Yeah, and the corporate work as well. I can imagine it. Not only is it a great string to your bow as such, but it helps you make sure that your material is corporate, squeaky clean. And that's the thing. Sometimes when a comedy stage hypnotist starts to push towards doing corporate stuff, but doesn't do corporate friendly work, that can cause problems for all of us, really, can't it?
Yeah, it can. And the other side of it is I do a lot of schools, a lot of proms and graduations. So April to June in the US is major prom and graduation season. Every weekend and multiple times during the week, you're booked and going somewhere. And so those shows have to be really clean. And so those kind of feed together. It doesn't mean that I don't do the other either. It doesn't mean that I won't do in the adult run. But those markets are very, very different. And my clients know very carefully that this is an adult show, and you've asked, and that's what you're going to get. And and there's a lot of parameters that go into it. But the other shows are down the line, and it has to be, because that's what they want. As we all know as performers, the worst thing that I can do is alienate my audience, embarrass the volunteers. Yeah. Right. If we embarrass the volunteers, what happens? We lose the audience. We have no show.
Yeah. Here in the UK, I think we had problems with that, and I think we still do to some extent, because there's not many stage hypnotists, working stage hypnotists. The problem is sometimes if someone doesn't get a reaction from the audience like what they want, and they take the material up a level, yes, they might get that initial reaction, but the next time someone goes to work that venue and you try and get volunteers, nobody wants to volunteer. So that's the end of the line for that. Whereas it's always, or I always try and do this, and I can imagine you do the same. It's always about trying to get that return booking, so that venue becomes a positive hypnosis venue from then onwards, really. Tell us about
absolutely.
Tell us about what got you into hypnosis. What was your first experience? What was the first time you were exposed to hypnosis?
I was 10 years old. I saw my first stage hypnosis show. I was at a youth event, and I saw the parents of people I knew coming up on stage, and they were eating onions and thinking it was the best tasting apple that they ever had. Or, back in the day, the things that we could do, sticking a pin through somebody's hand and or holding their hand over a flame, or you could do that back then. You don't even dare think about that kind of stuff today. Human bridge is specific. You can't do it. But I saw it, and clearly there was no internet in my day, so I was reading everything I could. I first got my first opportunity. I was on a youth trip. I was 16 years old. We're sitting around one Saturday afternoon, and a group of us, and one thing leads to another. I wind up hypnotizing this guy. He does all the crazy stuff I ask him to do. And I don't, being self-trained, I don't know if he's playing with me or if he's really in hypnosis, but I know he's doing all the stuff. And also being self-trained, I didn't know to take away the post-hypnotic suggestion. And that was a good thing, because 3 nights later, we're sitting at dinner. I accidentally touched my left ear with my right hand. He starts barking like a dog. And I said, oh, man, I did it. I really hypnotized the dude since. So that's how I got started in hypnosis. The mind always fascinated me. My undergraduate degree is in rhetoric and communication. At the time I studied, NLP hadn't been developed yet. Bandler and Grinder hadn't done it. Milton Erickson and Haley and Virginia Satir and Václav, all these guys, Bateson, were all running around, circling around the NLP thing, but they hadn't codified it. They hadn't brought it together. But that's the stuff I was studying because it made sense to me in the world of hypnosis. I ultimately didn't go that route. I ultimately went into the business world, and I spent the next 30 years in business and doing all kinds of things, and was an elected official. And when I did all of that, when I finally got the opportunity in 2008, my business partner decided he was going to retire. I said, this is beautiful, because now I'm getting a chance to follow my true passions. I became an alternate route educator, which means I became a teacher, not through the traditional route. But I also went full-time into hypnosis, clinical and stage, and started really, really working it there. And I had done stage shows. When people know you're a hypnotist, you go to a party, that's how it all starts, right? And it gets crazy. And so you start off doing party tricks. You start off doing the simple things. And then I saw you at so-and-so's party. Would you come to my party? And then that starts the game. That starts you, well, yeah, I can do that. It's going to cost you. And you start really cheap. But I have no show, I've got no game at that point. But you start to build your chops. You start to do that. Long story short, I subsequently have studied with a whole lot of super trainers, both in the clinical side of the world and the stage hypnosis side of the world, and great respect for the work that a lot of these stage hypnotists, and a lot of the hypnotists are doing. As hypnotists, we do amazing things to change people's lives. I don't care if it's a stage hypnotist taking them away from their insanity for an hour, or we're in clinical where we're doing amazing work, and people appreciate what we do.
Yeah, I always kind of say that I struggled with years on that whole just being an entertainer, and I would come away and the applause would die down, and you have the journey back home, and then you kind of think, as a therapist, you impact somebody's life in a massive way. And I used to dismiss almost being the stage performer because it didn't have the same impact. But the reality is, to have that moment of pure joy when you just leave all your stresses behind and have that laughter, that has such a profound effect on people. So it's, spreading joy is such a powerful thing.
Yeah. And COVID and coming out of the pandemic, people, this is a major reset, I think, for all of us in the world. People have taken stock in what's important in their lives.
Yeah.
And in that regard, you know, the thing that I find is, I'll get right to, that's a great question, Jason.
Yeah.
I find that people are searching for connection. And so I'm finding it in both my stage work and in my clinical work that I can help them to build that connection through the experiences. So the question that you asked, Jason, about how do I build my show and how has the structure of my show changed from when I started, that's a phenomenal question, and I'm going to share a couple things about that. The biggest part of my stage show and how I build a show is the first 3 skits or so are I have a group of skits that I will run from. Those are the skits to help bring people deeper into hypnosis and to test them to see if they're faking it, or if they're in hypnosis, or if they're out of hypnosis, and you know, or if they're too deep. You know, if you're too deep, I can't use you anyway in my show, right? You're just gonna, unless I put you holding up a wall for the whole show and use you as a foil for that show.
Yeah.
Generally, I'm going to let you go. So I'm going to run some early test skits. My early test skits are, and generally what I find throughout the industry, most people run this group of skits plus or minus. Okay. Yeah. It's going to be the orchestra skit. It's going to be hot, cold. It's going to be, I don't know, a roller coaster. It's going to be movies. But in all of those, what we're doing is we're bringing you up and down into hypnosis, deeper into hypnosis, bring you back out of hypnosis, deeper into hypnosis, and sending you deeper each time. And in that place, I get to see who I'm already identifying who are going to be my stars based on the first 2 or 3. What is too deep? I'll come back to you in a second, Tasha, on that, because there is a whole point of being too deep. Then we get into, then from there, I want to start to showcase the personality.
Yeah,
that's where I get into my individual skits. After the 3rd skit, I want to share the individuals. And now I'm going to do, I don't know, one of the ones I like to do is what I call Band-Aid Boy. You know, it's every time I use whatever my trigger is, there's a cut on their face and they need a Band-Aid. And I've got these kid Band-Aids. And so the guy winds up having bandages all over his face. And I say it, he's screaming because it hurts, and the only way it stops hurting is when he puts a Band-Aid on. And I'll recall that skit 20 times, you know, throughout the thing, just accidentally, and he's covered. But what I also do is I like to what I call cascade or domino effect that. So what I'll do is I'll use my trigger, and then somebody else will be a trigger based on my trigger.
Yeah.
So let's say I yell, you know, let's say I use a cowbell, right, as a trigger, right? That means he may now have a cut on his face, but as he's doing that, somebody else I've already got set up who's going to jump up and yell moo, sit back down, have no idea what they're doing. The person sitting next to them, you just mooed, and now they don't know that they mooed. And so, and when they say moo, the guy on the other side, his T-shirt's on backwards. So now every time that's happening, he's spinning his T-shirt.
Yeah.
So the more mayhem that I can create on that stage, the better it is.
Yeah. I think we had a guest once called it organized mayhem. To the audience, it just looks frantic. But to you as the hypnotist, you know exactly what that trigger is going to do and how it's going to affect. Yeah.
Absolutely. The other thing that I like to do in a lot of my shows is engage the audience. And by engaging the audience, it's not that they're no longer spectators, they're actually part of the show. And what that means is what I'm going to do is I'm going to have my volunteers coming in with the audience in some way, whether they're animals feeding off their hair, or if they're secret agent and they're smelling somebody's hair to find out who the spy is. There's going to be something that I want to do because I want the audience to be part of the show. It changes the experience for them as well.
Yeah, it makes it immersive. They're not just sat there passively watching something going on the stage. They're suddenly involved in it. And
absolutely.
I'm sure you'll find the same, that when that volunteer comes off the stage and is there with the audience member picking fleas or doing whatever with them, it makes it so much more real for the audience when they can see it up close.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And you know, it's that's the part that brings them in. Natasha asked a question about what's too deep. Too deep is when they sit there and they're just out. They're done. You know, it's like I'm someone who goes into hypnosis easily and deeply, very quickly. One of the things that happens with my back to the bar, so because those people who know me will come behind me and drop me into an instant induction, and I'm out. I mean, I'm gone, and it's a problem. If I go to a stage show, and I don't care who it is, you know, I don't care if it's somebody I've seen 20 times or somebody I've seen for the first time, or if I'm working camera even for another hypnotist. Very often I have to do something to distract myself. Yeah. So I'll be sitting in an audience like Mark Savarius. Happened to me 2 years ago at Hypnothoughts. I wound up being on their stage because I've been dropped into hypnosis out in the audience. So what would cause that? No, it has nothing to do with health issues. It has to do with the body loves to be in a state of hypnosis. Hypnosis is just this amazing place to be. The sympathetic and parasympathetic nerve systems are at absolute balance. It is the most relaxed state you can be in. And when the body understands that and feels that, very often, if you're in a high stress position and you now have this relief, the body's just going to take that and just go with it. So I did it. I remember doing a fair show a number of years ago, probably 6 years ago now. And I had this corporal from local military was there watching the show. He was on leave, and he went deep, and he was just out. And I said to the audience, I said, normally I would send him back. I said, I'm going to respect him, and I'm going to keep him on my stage. And I used him for several other things, but I wanted him to have the experience of enjoying and the benefit of being hypnotized. What I say on my stage, and a lot of hypnotists, 1 hour of hypnosis is the equivalent of 6 or 8 hours of natural sleep. Well, I know that to be good for me because when I'm traveling and doing the work that I do, I use that 1 hour of fly time to be in hypnosis, to drop myself into a hypnotic state, so I'm ready to go for my next event. Yeah. I'm sorry, Natasha. So would they likely happen with someone who wanted to escape reality? That's a good question, Natasha. It's a good question, and that could be the case, but generally it isn't. Generally, what I find with people is that it's not that they're escaping reality; it's that they're giving their body the opportunity to quiet down, to quiet the body, quiet the mind, and the body naturally responds to that.
You mentioned then about how you naturally go into hypnosis very quickly. Do you remember the first stage show you volunteered for? Because I always encourage people to have an interest in hypnosis to volunteer for stage hypnosis shows. Tell us about that.
God, I can't. Let me think about that. I can tell you. I'll tell you a story. I trained with Marc Savard a number of years ago, and Marc is one of the finest trainers for stage hypnosis that I've ever worked with. I think I lost you. No, you're back. No, your camera utility is dying. I'll carry it on. And so I wanted I had seen Mark many times in Vegas, and that's one of the reasons I had decided to train with Mark. Besides the fact that I respected him, and so when I trained with him, I wanted to see his stage setup, but the only way I was going to see that stage setup, and I knew this because I had discussed this, was I was going to have to volunteer. But I already knew that I drop into hypnosis. You know, one of the things about training is that you're in hypnosis constantly. You're hypnotizing one another. So literally, if you're going to a training or you're going to a conference and you're in a workshop or workshops, from the minute you get there to the minute you leave, you're pretty much in a perpetual state of hypnosis. And my body loves it so much. I enjoy it so much. It's an opportunity just to drop all the filters, to drop the pretense. And so there's a lot that goes on in that process. So I was on a stage, and I've got the video from that. I've been on Kevin Lepine's stage. I've been on a bunch of stages. I have more stages than I can count these days. And very often what you see when I get up there is really the true insanity that is me.
Fantastic. I always ask guests about the most challenging show that they've had. You know, whether something went wrong, whether there was no volunteers, and because I think by rule we tend to learn the most from those types of shows, and we all have at least one show that we try and forget about in the back of our mind somewhere. But tell us about your most challenging show and what you learned from that.
I mean, doing this as long as I've been doing this, there's a whole bunch of shows that can come to mind. One of the most challenging shows that I can remember was a county fair that I was doing in 3 or 4 years ago. 4 years ago now. It was 40 degrees centigrade and there was no shade. I had a venue shade venue, but it was the first show of the day, so it was around noon, 1 o'clock, and I had a really small audience because nobody wanted to sit in the direct sun. And I wound up having 3 volunteers. Now I've got a question. Now I've got to make a decision. Now I've got a real decision on my plate. And I'm there with I was doing the venue with Richard Barker. We were there together. Richard was running my camera. I was running his camera. We would switch off shows, and I'm looking at him, trying to get, you know, it's like, do I not? And Richard's killing me. He's killing me, and he's not giving me 1 inch of what he would do. And I said, the heck with it. I'm going for it, and I do. And I go for it. Well, I wind up keeping 2 of the 3 and wind up having a show. And in that moment, I knew you just go with what you got. You know, if I've got 2 people, I can do a show with 2 people. So while it's not the show that I wanted to do, it's not the show that I had the script set in my mind to do, I wound up doing a show. You wind up going with where you have to go. Now, I was telling, we were talking before we went live. I had a show this weekend. You know, I use a lot of music in my shows. Just about every skit that I perform has some sort of music base, because I think music really is helpful in coloring and engaging the audience. The volunteers see the picture I have. The music helps the audience feel and experience I'm trying to create. So I'm 15 minutes before show, I'm with a religious group, and 15 minutes before show, they come to me and said, we've got a small problem. I said, what's the problem? And a lot of these members had seen me just about a month ago at another venue, and that's why they hired me in. And they said, we know you use a lot of music. We can't have music tonight because of it's a holiday, and we can't have music on this holiday. And I said, oh, hey, I wish I'd been told this a few days before, I could have built the show around it. Literally in that moment, it's, what do I do? And it's exactly what any of us who would do when we're using music anyway. And if you have a failure, and failures happen, you go and you just go with what you got. You go with you do this long enough that you have enough in your repertoire, enough in your toolbox. I can pull this skit, I can pull that skit, I can pull the other skit, and I can create and build and work that kill. Yeah, they bought all kinds of videos from me afterwards. So it's from that standpoint, I know, and they want me to come back and do another show for another time. So from that standpoint, yeah, that's very much what happens. You just go with what's in front of you, and that was something that was really important to learn as a hypnotist, as a stage.
Yeah, I think from those failures, from the not getting the volunteers that you want, you learn that, like you said just then, you can do a show with 2 people, you can do a show with no music, and once you've kind of got that in your arsenal, then you can do a show anywhere with anything. You mentioned then about kind of selling the videos after the show. Videos, that's showing my age now. Back of room sales is not massive here in the UK. I know in the States it's a big part of the business. How are you doing that? Are you doing it DVDs that you send out, USB sticks? I see some people are now doing it as like video downloads. I don't do
DVDs at all anymore. We just don't have players, and I don't want to bring the burners with now or what I do now is I use Vimeo as my service. I sell them or I rent them. You can rent the show for 48 hours, or you can buy the show. But even if you buy the show, you can't download the show. You can only have permanent access to it. I restricted download. And those shows are typically get back from the venue. I'll edit the show, throw it right back up there. What I typically edit out is the induction. Once in a while, I'll throw a show up hot because I need to get it up quickly, and it'll have the induction there. But I tend to kill the induction because I don't want people watching it and dropping into hypnosis. I don't need a phone call. It's funny. I've developed a following from Japan. I don't know how the heck I did that, but I can see it on my Vimeo purchases that I get a lot of purchases out of Japan. I had a situation where I got a phone call 3 o'clock in the morning. Somebody's trying to talk to me, and they're speaking Japanese, and I don't understand Japanese. And what I ultimately find out or discover through this process, playing through it, is somebody was watching a video that I didn't put up, but somebody else put up on social media of my show, and they were in hypnosis, and the other people were freaking out because they couldn't get them out of it. So I had to deal with that. Fortunately, somebody was able to translate and take them through. So one of the announcements I make is while I don't want people video recording my show, I want them engaged. If you're holding a camera, holding a phone, you're not in the show. Yeah. I want you to enjoy the show. I'm recording. You can buy it from me. It's not that much money. Have a great time. How did they get my phone number? My phone number is pretty much on my website. Hypnomarc.com. You can get in touch with me. I don't make it a secret. I try to make it can for if you want my service, I want you to be able to get my service. I want to do everything I can to make it as simple as I can for you to sign my contracts, to book my show, to book my clinical work. Yeah.
Brilliant.
One thing that I really want to share is about probably the biggest lesson I ever had was after taking improv. I think I recommend this to anybody starting out in the business of hypnosis. Study improv, take improv classes, play with it, because it will change your show. And what it changed for me, the most important thing that changed for me is taught me to go with whatever was coming on my show. Yeah. As an early stage hypnotist, I would have Skit to go, and if it didn't go there, I'd short circuit the skit, I'd stop the skit, I'd do something to break the sequence. That was the biggest mistake I could make, because what was happening is when I allow it to go crazy, makes a sharp left turn on me somewhere I don't expect it to go. That's where the gold is, and that's where the laughs are going to be. And I learned that. And as I've learned that, the new secret is well, that happened. What can I do to make that happen intentionally going forward to get that same response?
Yeah.
And that's the biggest part of the learning.
Yeah. And I think for me, the magic with shows sometimes is those bits between the skits where, like you said, it's gone off somewhere else. It's evolved and found a bit of funny. And I kind of say that's like the stone that's getting polished by the river. After you do it for so long, you find these little bits that are just, they are diamond bits of the show and really help it stand out. And weirdly, when people copy shows, when they just watch a show, they miss that little bit and they realize that small bit there, that setup there is what actually makes it funny. It's not the overt suggestion. It's that tiny bit there that makes it really work.
Yeah, and you make a great point. I mean, so many starting hypnotists, we all, I think, had somebody who we modeled our show after, maybe copied directly and verbatim, completely copied their show. And that's not uncommon, and it makes sense. The problem with it is that you as a new hypnotist, you can't ever own that other show. You don't own it. And the audience feels it's not yours, and so it's important to learn how to build and make the show your show. There are very few original skits anymore. There are very few. They're all modifications of a skit that was done some time ago. I mean, and the master is Orman McGill. McGill's book, the Encyclopedia of Stage Hypnosis, is the Bible. And if you look at those things that McGill writes about, and the skit.
So
every skit that with absolute rare exceptions. Yeah, that's it. I mean, it's like, if you don't have, I've got an original version of that, and that's the later version. I've got an original first edition of his that I picked up, and I just that I cherish that book in my library. But I have in my opening video, I have an opening video when I use video openings. I have an homage to McGill in that piece where he's actually doing a clinical hypnosis piece, and you hear his voice, and you see him hypnotizing this woman, and that's my homage to Orman, because the stuff. I mean, one of the things that for me about hypnosis is protecting the art of hypnosis.
Yeah.
There's for me, there's a certain sacred part of being a hypnotist, to honor the craft, honor those who have gone before us, and to keep the art alive. I mean, if it wasn't for stage hypnotists, clinical hypnosis would not exist. Yeah. It would have died long ago.
I think it's kind of come full circle as well. That stage hypnosis is why clinical hypnotherapy does so well as it does now. But now I'm seeing, or pre-COVID, I'm seeing audiences that have never seen a stage hypnosis show, but know all about kind of losing weight and quitting smoking with hypnosis. And so it's kind of like there's audiences now that have no idea what a stage hypnosis show is, which is bizarre.
Yeah, it is interesting. Andre asked an interesting question. There are very few skits that I won't do. The skits that I won't do are skits involving food, skits. I won't do human bridge. I won't do anything involving fire, where I used to be able to hold their hand above a match or a candle, stick a pin through an arm or a hand. You just don't do those skits anymore. Food skits, you don't know when you're going to find an allergy, an anaphylaxis, severe reaction. So I stay away from those. Depending on the type of show I'm doing, then it varies. I think the secret for all stage hypnotists to be aware of is it's really important to read and gauge your audience. knowing the audience and knowing what their tolerance level is really important. Give you an idea. I do a skit. It's really easy to do. I'll do two early skits that all in different directions. I do the hot cold skit. Hot cold, for those of you who may not know what hot cold is, you're on a Caribbean beach, it's hot, but along that line, I have them look down one side of the beach, and there's some hottie checking you out, give them a little wave. Look down the other side; they're even better looking down there. But I want you to look really farther down that beach. You're going to see a group of people playing volleyball, and if you look really closely, they're playing naked volleyball. Oh, did I mention their senior citizen? That last line is the kill line, because then they cringe, because you see them, and it doesn't matter if I'm doing a high school show, because I can do that. I can get away with that in a high school show, because I'm not asking them to do anything but to look. Or I can do that on a corporate show. It's because they're looking, and it's the reaction that the audience is looking for, and that's why when the masks are on or the face shields are on, you lose that connection to the audience. Yeah. But in that's where that's as far as I will take that skit in that group of people. Then I'll go into something like a movie skit where you're watching the funniest movie, then the saddest movie. I'm looking at an adult, a more adult audience, and I'm talking, going PG. You're watching an X-rated film that's 3D, and they're right in front of you. You reach out and touch them. One of the skits that I have to be careful of, that I typically won't do in high school or corporate, is a thing. Your favorite body part is growing 10 times larger.
Weirdly, for
obvious reasons. I know where that's going to go, especially if I'm working with high school.
Yeah, in the UK, we have we have the 1952 Hypnotism Act.
Right.
So some of those skits, like the needle through the hand, and there's various skits that are now part of the conditions of that is they're not to be performed. The human bridge can't be performed, etc. But one of them is on the whole, you can't make someone lose a body part or make them think they've lost a body part that if they lost it in real life would cause them distress. But that's due to a court case that happened here in the UK with quite a prominent hypnotist at the time, where he told someone that they'd lost their penis and couldn't find it, and he was sued for emotional distress. And that happens to be a great skit in the right venue, in the right audience. Here in the States, I can still do that. Natasha says, could you change it to your least favorite body part?
Yeah, you could change it to your least body part, but I wouldn't lose it. And the object of the body part linked to a Hypno Act. The least body part. The problem with that is it's not going to grow 10 times larger. What's going to tend to happen is people are not going to. They're going to focus on what's prominent, and the object here is somebody's going to have their nose, somebody's going to have their ears, somebody might have their eyes, but somebody's going to go for their breasts or their penis, and that's the obvious laugh line. And so that and that's where you're going to go in a more adult show. When we talk about skits, one of my favorite skits is a skit that I also do street hypnosis. And one of my favorite skits as a street hypnotist is the mind reader skit. And for those of you who are not familiar, what happens is you hypnotize the volunteer. You tell the volunteer, I'm the world's greatest mind reader. I want you to ask me 3 questions, one at a time. And as I hypnotize, they ask me the first question, I snap them back into hypnosis, they give me the answer, and I tell them they forgot to give me the answer, they're going to ask me the question again. They ask me the question again, I go a couple of years back, and I've got this young woman on the stage, it's a grad show, and I ask her the first question, what color is my bedroom? And I tell her the color of her bedroom, and she asks me, what what is my dog's name, and I give her dog's name. And then I said, so far you've given me some really easy stuff. I said, you got to give me something really tough. And she turns around and she says to me, what color are my panties? Now I'm in a high school show. I can't go here. And I go, and sleep. Drop her right back in. I turn to the audience and say, you don't think I'm... And that got a bigger laugh line than if I would have gone down the road and gone the other place. And that's about knowing your timing and knowing where you can go and where things are with that.
And it's about that thing we were talking about earlier, about the audience experiencing something that is unique to that moment as well. They think that that's the first time that's happened and it's caught you off guard, if you know what I mean. It's a brilliant setup. Yeah.
And when that happens, it's like, this is gold. This is going to make that show.
Yeah. What other things are you doing kind of now coming out of COVID, as well as the stage stuff as well?
I'm sorry?
What other things are you doing
now with it?
Yeah, now kind of with hypnosis. You mentioned about the corporate stuff that you were doing.
I've actually been fortunate during COVID. Yeah, the corporate stuff. What I was doing with the corporate was working with their team members, helping them deal with the stressors of being outside of the working from home and still having to produce, dealing with the stress of being in COVID. And even during COVID, I was still seeing clients in my office, 2 meters apart, cleaning everything, scrubbing everything down, doing temperature checks, we're both wearing masks. But here stateside, that was considered an essential service. We were considered an essential service because it's a mental health line. So for us, that worked that way. Right now, I'm seeing. I specialize in trauma work. Specialty is post-traumatic stress, sexual trauma, sexual abuse, with a unfortunately huge pull in the sexual trauma and abuse line. I do addiction work as part of that because addiction and trauma are very closely tied. Fears and phobias, I'm seeing a big increase in that. That's percolated more and more to the surface. A lot of that, and the enlightened corporations that I work with, and I work with some of the largest corporations in the world on that. They recognize the importance of. There's nothing more important to them than having team members that are functioning properly. Because whatever they spend is going to help the bottom line, help them to produce and help them to not have to train, and especially here in States, finding help is really, really difficult right now. An estimate the other day was 9.2 million unfilled job vacancies in the U.S. right now. So people are having a difficult time finding staff and keeping staff. That's been a big deal.
Yeah. I always ask as well for 2 books that have influenced either your stage or your hypnosis or your business career that you think people watching this, you kind of, if you had to recommend those books, what would they be?
The first book would have to be the McGill Stage Hypnotist Encyclopedia. That, without a doubt, is a go-to all the time.
Yeah.
From there's I would probably go back to from the clinical side. I do a lot of NLP work, and then it's got to be Bandler and Grinder's books, and there's any number of those. Probably the most influential are Milton Erickson's stuff. I mean, My Voice Will Go With You is one of the most powerful books that's ever, in my opinion, has ever been written, and it gives you such incredible insight into the mastery of Milton Erickson. He was just, it's like he changed hypnosis forever.
Yeah.
And his ability to run stories and get into their frame is just something to be believed. So I would more than Bandler and Grinder, I would say any of the Erickson books. There's just such an insight into his work.
Absolutely. So what's next for you? Where do you see kind of your stage stuff going in the next kind of 5 years? What big plans have you got?
Right now, I'm pushing forward on doing more outside open venues. A lot of corporate or private or parties or grad type shows. I do some casinos. I do some ship work. I do some, and I'd love to do more ship work. That's one of the things I really want to push for. That's also in a place where that's just starting to come back. I'm just seeing, the stage hypnotists that are, because they're still under a lot of restrictions on the ships as to what kind of shows they can do and what kind of interaction. And we're even seeing in Vegas. Vegas is just the Vegas stage shows have just reopened this past week or so, and so that's exciting that they're coming back. I was in Vegas last August, and it was, the town was dead. It was eerie what was going on and what wasn't going on. So I'm looking forward to getting back there this time. That's part of my plan is to go there. I'll be looking to expand in all ways. I like to go with where the opportunity arises. I always love the stage hypnosis side of my world. And one of the things that for especially for new stage hypnotists, if you don't have a clinical background, do yourself a big favor, huge favor. Do your audience and do your volunteers a bigger favor. Take clinical classes, courses, become proficient in clinical. Ab reactions happen. They're rare. I mean, 1 in 1,000 volunteers, you get an ab reaction. But if you don't know how to handle an abnormal reaction, it's going to kill your show, and it could cost you financially as well.
Yeah.
So
I think kind of what you're saying there.
Knowing occasions is critical, I think.
The stage guys learning clinical stuff. I know for me, it's hypnosis is hypnosis is hypnosis. It's literally, anything I can learn from someone else or anywhere else, it consumes part of who I am. And I think in that sense, we're all hypnotists rather than just stage or just clinical. Natasha says really good advice there as well. You're doing a workshop at Hypno Thoughts Live?
I am. I'm doing, actually, my business partner and I are doing several. We're doing first one is during the conference, and that is called "I Double Dog Dare You Not to Build Rapport," and that just is pretty much what you see is what you get. We're going to talk about the misconceptions surrounding rapport. That's one of the things that are going to happen after during COVID. One of the things that I've discovered is that people are craving true, authentic connection. This is what they realize has been missing from their lives. And my business partner and I co-create a program called circlingspace.com. And in that circlingspace.com, people from around the world, we get together currently virtually, and it's a safe container where we share your longings, it's about self-discovery. It's about self-connection and connection to others. And in that process, you begin to see what's really going on inside. What are the things that are driving you? Where are your belief systems? What is it that is holding you from being the best version of yourself? And so it's a really interesting way of understanding it. And I think it's one of the reasons we're offering it as a 2-day post-workshop for hypnotists, is that in order to connect with your audience, connect with your clients, connect with yourself, have better relationships, more satisfying relationships, it's understanding yourself and understanding how you relate to others. And I think that's right now really critical. So circlingspace.com is a place to check it out. I've got, we have once a month we are running a free intro to what circling is. It's an opportunity. Our next intro is let's see, it's noon. 10 a.m. Pacific, which makes it 1300 US, makes it 13 is 1800, I think, BST. So somewhere around there. But yeah, that would be would be available. It's a great opportunity. That is a no-cost 2-hour event. It's a lot of fun. You're going to learn a lot of things about yourself, about things, why you do what you do. Well, we all make assumptions. We all have judgments. But we very often don't express those to one another. We censor what we say, and that's normal. That's natural. That's what humans do. That we can't possibly say everything that's going through us.
True.
So that's two of the things that we're working on.
That sounds absolutely fantastic. Does that, to be fair, and it's to master ourselves as such, to have a better understanding. It does prevent those negative triggers from kind of going crazy as they do. If you were to give a tip, a golden nugget of advice that you wish you'd been given on the road when you started out doing stage hypnosis, what would that tip be?
Be your authentic self. Yeah, be yourself. Find out who you are. Understand who you are. So many people that I know have originally get into hypnosis because it's this power trip.
Yeah,
it has nothing to do with power. What I find is, as I've gotten more into it, the more heartfelt energy that I can share with my audience, the audience has got to feel that I care about you, and that I'm going to protect you from yourself, and do that. Crazy as an adult show can get, and they can get completely. There is a point in the line that I need to stop the insanity, or put the brakes on it a little bit, and watch it go. And so I think that's the best part. The other part is, as I mentioned before, the two other parts would be proficient, be certified as a clinician. You don't have to practice it, but at least have that awareness, have that knowledge, and definitely take improv. It will help your show take it to the next level. That's the difference between people who are what I call weekend warriors and those of us in the business who are out there who are able to flow. You're able to pick up on a joke right there. You pick up on a line that somebody gives you, and you're going to run that line because it works. And those are the kind of things that you pick up in that kind of classes.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolute golden advice there. Marc, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. When is it? When do you set off for your travels to Vegas? Is it a couple of weeks?
I fly in on the 26th of July, and I will be in Vegas until the 5th, and then I've got some work out west that I'm doing, and I'll be out in that until mid-August. I'll be on the road, and then I come back here and then get ready to. I'm going to be moving down to Jacksonville, Florida, in early September, and so moving my practice down to Jacksonville and going into a whole new community of learning. There's a whole bunch of hypnotists in the area and friends of mine. So I didn't realize some of them were as close as they're going to be, and I'm looking forward to being in there. And I'm looking forward to, if any of you are coming to Hypnot Thoughts, that'd be great. Prepare for a bomb show. It will happen. You know what? Bomb shows happen. Andre, absolutely correct. You're going to get a show where nobody goes into hypnosis, and what are you going to do?
Yeah.
And it happens. And if it hasn't happened to you yet, you haven't done enough shows. But it's going to happen. And it wouldn't even just help in a show. It helps so they like it. Yeah. So so thank you guys. Grant, thank you for inviting me. It's been an absolute pleasure. It's hard for me not to talk about hypnosis. So if I was a little slow on the uptake, I apologize. But I invite everybody to grow, and more important than growing, we're a community.
Yes,
we are a community. You know what? I know I have this friendly competition situation. I have no qualms picking up a phone if I have a show that I can't cover for some reason, and I have a competitor. I'll say, hey, you know, I got this show. I've got the show lead. Let's take that. You know, go ahead and take that. You know, and I can't do it, and you'll just give me one on the flip. You know, you give me one back.
Yeah.
You know, and that happened in the show. What do you think? And you know, we need each other to support each other, and we can support our industry by doing that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, we are a great community. Mark, it's been an absolute pleasure. Guys, don't forget to check out Mark's social media as well, his Facebook, YouTube, and his website as well, which is hypnomarc.com. Do show him some love. If you're in Vegas for Hypno Thoughts Live, go and see him. And you guys enjoy it whilst you're out there, because apparently they're not letting us Brits in. So, yeah, guys, Mark, thank you very much.
Yeah. Reach out to me.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Grant.
Right.
Thank you guys for watching.
Take care. See you later.
Bye.